Welcome to Within You, a podcast that explores the unknown, liminal space, as we all navigate between where we are now and what's next. Yo soy Vivian. I call myself a wisdom teacher, and I see myself as a mindset mentor. I also serve as a transformational guide for the folks in Within University, my online learning community. And I'm really proud to be based out of Funky Town, which is Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm waving a big old digital, hey y'all, how you doing? I'm so glad you're back. I'm glad that I'm back in your ear. Hi. So if this podcast is new to you, I am so excited that you found me on the interwebs. I would love for you to give me a shout on any social media platform or directly in my email at vivian@viviancarrasco.com and tell me exactly how you found me. Most of the folks that I connect with are organically, which means it's not planned, it just kind of happens. Or it's part of another very loving, very creative, very service-based community that I serve on. So I'd love to know how you and I have become friends. Thank you. And as a quick introduction to what we're doing here together, outside of those first two sentences, Within You is really the unfolding of love being human, which is a message that I believe that I received through in connection with the divine. It came through me. It was, sometimes you hear stories of folks hearing things without words. That's exactly what this was. And it was so powerful and it resonated so deeply throughout every layer of my body and my being and my soul that I had to capture it. I wrote it down. I knew that it had some form of meaning that I didn't quite understand yet. That was in October of 2013. And this is now being released in May of 2020. So I have unfolded those three words over the last 6 odd years. And my understanding of those three words continues to unfold. But right now, the way that I'm seeing them and the way that I teach through them are in these ways. Love as a self-discovery, because we really do not know who the heck we are. We need to get to know ourselves better. We need to know exactly what we want. And I talk a lot about that deeper wanting, that yearning, that want that is beyond like, I'd really love a pizza today. You know, those core values that kind of guide you through life, whether we recognize that they're doing it or not. So what do we really want? And this is the funnest part. Who are we and who are we becoming? Because we're always becoming. I said to someone earlier today, I sense that you're going through a transition, which is kind of funny because it's my work. So I kind of should just take for granted that folks that are navigating towards me are shifting. But the other thing is that we're always shifting. So it's a cool little paradox here. Anyway, so love is that, get to know yourself better. Be friends with yourself. I didn't become friends with myself until very recently. And it's one of the things that if I could turn back time, I'd become more of an ally to myself a lot earlier on in my life. I don't know how I functioned and got through life with the things, the way that I would talk to myself, the way that I would treat myself. So love is self-discovery, kind self-discovery, compassionate self-discovery. Being is an embodied practice. The thing about the embodied practice, the thing that moves the divine through you, I've really enjoyed talking about this recently. It's specific to you. It is unique to you. And it's unique to your season. And because it's a seasonal thing, it will shift. So our embodied practices move. They shift throughout our lives. But you'll feel a connection. You'll feel something that pulls you to practice whatever this practice is. And the other thing that I love talking about when it comes to embodied practice is that it may not be. I mean, you may already be kind of flexing around this area. And this might be something that you disregard and maybe just share with your friends who need it. But an embodied practice is not something that has a specific way that you sit, a specific time that you do it. I mean, it can have that kind of structure. It absolutely can. But it doesn't have to be. It can be more playful, more inviting, more intimate, more of an exploration, kind of a discovery. Do I like to sit this way, or would I prefer to lay down? Would I prefer to do it in the morning, in the evening? Do I want to do it all day long? Do I want to walk through my life as an embodied meditative practice? If you're doing that, call me and teach me how, okay? Because that's one of my life goals, in air quotes, with a hashtag. The last word this messaging, these teachings that I'm unfolding over these last few years. Human. Be human. We are fully human. Sometimes we like to ignore the fact that we're human. Very basically, that we do get tired, we do get hungry, we do need hugs sometimes. And I'll get a little bit more into that because that's related to today's episode story, which is why it's at the forefront of my mind. Lots of things about being human. And there's that just humanity, right? Those needs, those intrinsic needs. And then there's the way that our mind works, how cognitive bias comes in, just the way, the structures of our mind and how they work. And a really simple experiment, if you'll play with me. Make sure you're not driving if you're walking. Be safe. But try this experiment with me. So kind of look around the room. Hopefully you're not in the room. Maybe you're in nature. I'd love for you to be in nature right now, outside of the four walls of any building. I happen to be recording in my closet, so I'm looking at clothes. That's what I'm looking at. Clothes. Lots of clothes. Shoes. My side of the closet is very unorganized. David's side of the closet is organized. Weirdly organized. Long sleeve, short sleeve, seasons, the whole bit. Anyway, that's my space. So look around your space. Now close your eyes. Or bring your eyes to a soft gaze. Bring to mind your favorite color or a color. And just sit in you thinking about that color with your eyes closed for a few seconds. And now open your eyes. And if the experiment has worked, then that color is popping out at you. Isn't that fun? We can do that to our mind. We can work with our mind to do the things we want it to do. So this brings me back to one of my favorite examples by Dr. Rick Hansen, who is a neuropsychologist. He talks about our mind being like a Dyson vacuum cleaner on top of a piece of tofu with a spotlight. And so that experiment, that little thought experiment, was your tofu being impacted or influenced by this Dyson vacuum cleaner shining a spotlight. And in my case, I was shining a spotlight on the color red. When I opened my eyes, it just popped out at me. Interesting. That's what it's like to be human, is to understand the system that is working for you, hopefully, behind the scenes. The second part of being human that I really, really like to emphasize is expressing your creativity. For most of my folks, that expression is typically in their voice or in their written word. Just taking a stand for something, having a really firm perspective or opinion, and feeling confident about that. But it is any way that you express yourself, that you make, that you create, that you use what comes through your heart, you move it through your body, out of your hands in some way. Some of my favorite creative practices are blackout poetry or oil painting. I make jewelry. I pretty much just kind of flutter around in whatever my heart's interested. And that expression, that creativity that's coming through me, it makes me become fully alive. Like we have to do that stuff. So the thought experiment right now, I guess I'm getting into thought experiments before I get into the episode. Who knew? Is to just look at your day. Just kind of randomly look at your day. How much of it is input? How much of it is output? How much of it is your output? How much of it is your swing on things? How much of it is your voice? How much of it is you, your expression? And that can be even in what you choose to wear for the day. I don't do that. Most of my outfits are pure black, because I don't like to express myself in that way. So if there's a whole heck of a lot of input, and that may begin with when you open your eyes, are you taking in your senses? Are you feeling into your body? Are you stretching? Are you thanking your body for repairing itself while it slept, which is what it does magically without you even thinking about it? Or do you open your eyes and reach for a digital device and input? Just take a look at that. Not asking you to change it, just asking you to observe it. Because the creative expression of you is a critical part of you being fully human. And I just want to bring attention to that. So that's the whole intro. How crazy is that? It's about, 10 minutes long. I'm looking over at my Zoom. 13 minutes long. Yeah. So let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is about mothering. And, first and foremost, I know that there are some beautiful, I don't even know how to describe you, but I know there are men in the audience. I know there are males. I live in a household of males outside. I'm the only female. And this is also for you. Like, don't disregard this. Don't think, oh, mothering, not for me. Click off or fast forward, or I've just found something that I have to do that's so much more important than listening to Vivian anymore. That's how you feel, go for it. But I want to invite you to stay. I want to invite you to listen. I want to invite you to also consider this. I'm sorry, if you're a male listening to me, thank you. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being, I'm just going to call you top 3% of all male humans, because you are evolving if you're listening to me. I'm not an easy person to listen to. My men tell me that all the time. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Just kidding. Yeah, they do. So this is specifically about lessons that I've learned about my mothering and how mothering has shown up in my life. So, and giving you some perspective on it, since I no longer typically mother in the way that many mothers do. My men are grown, and so that mothering happens primarily to myself. And also for the mothers without children out there, because your aunties or you are mothering a project. Mothering happens. Giving birth, gestating a project, it happens. And whether we're male or female, we need to learn to mother ourselves better. There's always a better. That's why you're here, because you're becoming better. We're all becoming better, hopefully. It's just something that we're going to continue to do. So when I like to talk about the time that I was raising my guys as a really interesting school. I really saw them as my teachers and worked really hard, both intellectually and heart-wise, to do the best that I absolutely could do. It never met my expectations, let's just be honest. But so far, the guys haven't said that I've done too terrible of a job. So we're just going to leave that on the shelf and say, I did all right, okay? But there's one thing that I recall doing that I don't exactly know where I learned it, but it made such a big difference in the way that I related to my guys and to any little people that were around me. And it was when they came towards me, crying, bleeding, screaming, when the outward expression of what they were needing inside was showing up, I didn't quite spend all my time and attention addressing that thing, whether it was screaming, crying, whatever. I first came down to their level. If I was standing, I would get to my knees. And I would look at them and kind of sense. I wouldn't ask them these questions out loud, but I would ask myself, are you hungry? Do you need a hug? You look really tired. I just sensed into what their fundamental need was being expressed at the time. And I really think it served me then. It served me not to overreact to a specific word or a specific act, because I had more compassion for them as kids, as little ones, sort of learning. And I really think that now what's happened, especially over the last few months, we are all in a global pandemic. It is a collective experience. I cannot wait to look forward and then look back at what happens because of the chaos that is happening now. And unfortunately, the pain and suffering, because something will come out of it that will be magical and innovative and exciting. So what I've realized is that type of mothering needs to happen to me now, so that when I find myself in the pantry, not knowing why I'm there, or standing in front of the refrigerator with the door open and not remembering why I came to the refrigerator or why, it's just really weird. It's is to ask myself, what's my fundamental need? All animals have 3 fundamental needs. They don't relate directly to those things I used to ask myself when I was raising the guys, but they are safety, satisfaction, and connection. You can turn those into questions. What am I afraid of right now? And I actually prefer to focus on the opposite of that. If I'm thinking of safety, what will move me towards what I want or what is joyful for me? Because when I'm focused on what I'm afraid of, I'm just focused on moving away from it. And it's not the direction of travel that I want to take in my life. So what do I need right now? If I'm standing in front of the refrigerator, usually what I'm missing is either satisfaction or connection. literally at times walk over to David, stand in front of him, and he's like, what? And I'm like, hug me right now. I need a hug. So just ask yourself, pause for a second, reflect. You can even use the questions I did with the guys. Am I hungry? Do I need a hug? Am I tired? And then go do that. Give yourself what you need. Mother yourself. I have had the opportunity to teach beginning meditators practices, right? How to practice, because that's kind of what an embodied spiritual practice is. It's a form of meditation. And it's interesting, several of them, when they're still, will fall asleep. And there's nothing wrong with that. That just means that they're tired, that they needed that opportunity to pause so that they could rest. It's a very basic need. And because we're learning to love being human, we've got to learn what our basic needs are so that we can pull ourselves out of that initial sort of animal meet my need category up into a higher level of awareness and consciousness to meaning and purpose and interconnections, right? So that's the first story that I wanted to share with you is that's what I did then. And now I'm doing it, but in a different way, is just asking these questions, taking it to a different perspective. So I'm just looking at my notes here. I know that I mentioned that this should be done with an attitude of curiosity and kindness. If I didn't, then I'm mentioning it now. When you ask yourself these questions, when you're dipping into what is it that I want right now, what is it that I need right now, it is with nothing but acceptance, kindness, and non-judgment. It's what you need. Now, I talk a lot about things that you do or get that give you like a hangover. And I don't just mean alcohol and then an actual hangover. I mean like if I'm standing in front of the fridge and I'm actually hungry, which doesn't happen very often, but if I'm actually hungry and I reach for a chocolate piece of cake, which is not in there very often, but when it is, I will reach for it. That sugar is going to give me a hangover. So is it the best choice for me is all I'm saying. Meet your need in a way that enriches you and that enlivens you. And so that's just something for you to consider, you know. I know if I'm going for a walk, it's going to give me more life. Even taking a nap is going to do that too. Sometimes I need it and I'll binge watch whatever series we're on Netflix or whatever other streaming channel, but it doesn't often sort of give me anything back. It just sort of numbs me out. So just recognize what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's part of getting to know yourself. So, you know, mother yourself. So I said earlier on that I really saw my kids as teachers. The reason that I probably wasn't thinking of it this way like 30 years ago, but now they were like 100 times better mind ninjas than I am. The reason I say that is because as kids, they didn't have the filters or the dust or the layers or the armor that we have as an adult, where we think that we're hiding something when we can't actually hide it from other humans because we sense things at levels. And so there was no way for me to nurse my kids unless I was calm, unless I was connected, unless I was present. And so that was training for me. And I also realized, like, I remember my little sister had her baby boy and I went over to help her because she was trying to nurse and she was having a hard time. And I remember just asking her to calm down, just sort of, I think that I was like sort of soothing her on her back or like playing with her hair, because the babies, they don't believe what you say. They know what they feel. And if we were to uncover the layers of us, we would be in the same place. We wouldn't be surprised by people's behavior like I am. I'd already have tuned in to, yeah, this is the vibe I'm getting, and this is typically around, this is what I can expect from them because of that vibe. Same thing with kids. If you're saying, imagine yourself saying, be nice, and you're saying it really mean and you're pointing and, you're not saying it in a nice way. So you're not really teaching them what you want to express. As parents, when we're parenting, whether we're parenting ourselves or we're parenting, children or nieces and nephews or, employees that we supervise, because there is some form of nurturing there happening, I hope. You've really got to tune into those deeper needs, and you've got to model from your deepest self. Because if you say one thing and you feel another, that person is going to know. Not as quickly or as fast or as presently as maybe a kid will, because they don't have those filters yet, but you're just going to go, I wonder. So if you need a spiritual teacher, a spiritual coach, be around a kid. Follow them around, play with them, see how they move through their day. Try it. I mean, if you have the opportunity to do it, do it. Since I don't have that opportunity very often, I sort of take advantage of it and revel in it. And the thing that I realize the most is that they have so much energy. I don't know where they get it from, but they wear me out, and I love every minute of it because I fall asleep like a baby when I'm around them. So my kids were my spiritual teachers. They gave me lots of training. And if you need to be reminded and you have little ones around, maybe see that relationship in that way. So the final note that I made that I wanted to share with you today was the idea of allowing ourselves to be mothered. And that really even means if you're laying on the ground in nature and you're receiving like the support that comes from that firm or earth. You know, if someone offers you a gift or a compliment or, you know, we need to be mothered. So we have to be open to receiving that. If we don't and we're a giving person, then you only have one sort of wing of the bird. And how are you going to fly? You need both wings. Giving and receiving happen in tandem together. We give and we receive. We give and we receive. And interestingly enough, the more that we are able to receive, the more we are able to give. And then it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So ask yourself, are you allowing others to mother you? Those are my 3 notes from today's episode of me seeing mothering in a different perspective, the way that I did it way back when the guys were young, and how I'm hoping to remember to do it for myself during this difficult time, during any time. And then the final one is if I'm allowing others to do it to me, for me, to give me mothering. And that is any gender. I hope I don't have to say that, but I am, you know. What aren't you allowing in your life? What are you sort of deflecting as it's being offered to you? And it could be as simple as a compliment. That is today's episode. Let's see what my outro sounds like now. It's always a surprise to me because I love doing it on the fly now. I hope that this time together, this short time together, has helped you how to change, how to become, answer questions you might have had, or maybe dived a little bit deeper into what you were curious about. If you are curious and want to dive deeper into my work, I invite you to visit my website, viviancarrasco.com. And if you're stuck and frustrated, don't stay that way. You have an opportunity to learn and grow in community with me and with some beautiful humans and within university. We take seasonal learning journeys. They're journeys of discovery that are customized for the community and where the community is. So if you'd like to learn more about that, visit it www.withinuniversity.com so that we can learn and grow together. And for a few folks, I know that learning in a group is nerve-wracking and it's a little too much. So I do offer a few limited spots for one-to-one support. And again, you can email me at vivian@viviancarrasco.com or visit the website and learn more about that. Thank you for joining me today on Within You, the podcast. May peace be with you in all ways.